Okay, in this lesson, we're going to talk about compounds. And compounds can be classified as either ionic or molecular. The distinction is somewhat obvious. An ionic compound is made up of ions. A molecular compound is made up of molecules. Okay? So how can we tell if the compound is ionic or molecular? That's one of the things you need to learn how to do. Uh, it's quite easy. The first thing you have to ask yourself is is it ionic? Once you've figured out whether it's ionic or not, then obviously if it's ionic, then it's not molecular. If it's not ionic, then it must be molecular. Okay, so how can you tell if it's ionic? If you're given the formula, if it's an ionic compound, the formula will generally be written starting with the symbol for a metal. Okay, or you might see that NH4 grouping in the formula. Okay, and that NH4 might start off with a parenthesis around it, may or may not. Okay, now if the formula starts with NH4, that simply means that the compound is an ionic compound, and the positive ion, the cation, is a polyatomic ion known as ammonium. Okay, so the formula for ammonium ion is NH4 plus. It's one of the most common polyatomic ion you'll encounter, so you need to memorize that formula. And of course, you know, if there's a metal in the formula of the compound, then that means that that metal is the source of the cation for the compound, the positive ions. If you recall, metal atoms have a tendency to become positive ions or cations. Okay? Now, what if you're given the name? Well, the name would usually start with the name of a metal or with the word ammonium. That's how you can tell you have an ionic compound. If it's not ionic, then chances are most likely it's going to be a molecular compound. So let's look at a few examples here. Classify these as ionic or molecular. So you're given the name, so you look at the first word. This is sodium. What is sodium? Symbol Na. Is that a metal or non-metal? Therefore, this is ionic. Look at this one, carbon disulfide. The first word is carbon. Carbon is C. That's non-metal, so this compound is molecular. And then the third example here, it starts with the word ammonium, so that means it's ionic. Ammonium, okay, that means the cation is NH4 plus. Actually, it's not a metal. Nitrogen is a non-metal, but because you see that NH4 grouping, you should be able to recognize that ammonium is a cation. So therefore, an ammonium compound is an ionic compound. All right. Here's another set of examples. This time you're given the formula, Mg parenthesis OH2. So you look at the first element listed. That's Mg. That is A. Therefore, this compound is. Okay, this is called magnesium hydroxide. First element listed is carbon. Metal or non-metal? Okay, carbon's non-metal, so this is molecular. And finally, the third one, the first element listed is nitrogen, non-metal, but you see that grouping right there, NH4, that tells you that's an ionic compound. Okay? This compound is ionic because of that NH4 group.